Hello, my name is Ripley. Welcome to the video.
Hey, what is up, schmucks? Today, we conclude our Christmas marathon with a look at two Christmas episodes from two Spider-Man shows, Ultimate Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man. Both of these episodes tell Spider-Man stories I personally believe to be incredibly crucial for the character, so I'm excited to get into this. Plus, I have been dying to talk about Spectacular Spider-Man, so today is my chance. But because of that, I'm going to save that for last, which means we're going to be starting with Ultimate Spider-Man. But before that, this video is brought to you by the G-Words Podcast. Kinda. The G-Words Podcast is the podcast I sometimes do with my friends, and it follows no rules. We talk about all kinds of wacky stuff, so just pick an episode and go nuts. But the first two episodes are kind of bad, so maybe don't listen to those. And the links are down below if that's something you want to give a try. Alright, let's get into our Spider-Man Christmas. So, I've seen 4 episodes of this show, the pilot episode, 1 episode with Venom, the episode with Deadpool and Taskmaster, and this one. And I genuinely kinda like this episode. The show isn't for me. It's too weird and leans into its child appeal a little too much for me. There's nothing wrong with that, this is a kid's show after all, but this show lacks the charm that Spectacular Spider-Man has that makes that show so appealing to fans young and old. Anyway, so this episode of Ultimate Spider-Man opens with Spider-Man arriving to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, only to find that his friends have fucked off and left him behind. In a moment of clumsiness, Spider-Man falls off the roof and he wakes up in a weird retro state with his devil and angel buddies accompanying him. So Spidey fights these guys and then we get to what's really important in this episode. Peter choosing between being Peter Parker or being Spider-Man. This episode is handled like a Christmas Carol with visions of his past, his present, and his future, and I honestly think it's really well done. In his past, Peter reflects on how when Spider-Man fucked up, New York really let him have it and they really laid into it. They made him feel as if he wasn't good enough. Then in his present, the same thing happens. He messes up and the city lays into him. This leads Peter to quit being Spider-Man, but if some light bullying and a little criticism is enough for Peter to quit, then he's probably not meant to be a superhero, just saying. Also, Peter does the Spider-Man no more.
Spider-Man no more.
To really hammer home what this episode is going for. Like, he just says it. Why not have him turn to one of his conscience buddies and say, I'm Spider-Man no more? Like in Spider-Man 2.
I'm Spider-Man no more.
Yeah, that line was cringy and dumb in that movie, but at least it made sense. Here, he's just saying the name of the comic, which is equally as cringe. So Peter's Christmas future is also straight from the comics, with Peter Industries being a thing. I do wish Peter would suit up in the Mark IV armor, since that's the suit Peter had when Parker Industries was a thing, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so Hawkeye and Nova come in fighting Green Goblin goons, and Peter realizes he needs to be Spider-Man again. This episode tells a story I personally believe to be quite essential for Spider-Man. The brutal choice of being Peter Parker or being Spider-Man. If Peter abandons Spider-Man, then he can focus on himself, his loved ones, and being happy and living the life he thinks he wants. Or he can be Spider-Man and do what he knows he has to do. Protect people. Be a hero. Spider-Man is a beacon of hope and a symbol of heroism, and Peter knows he has to uphold that because that's his responsibility. This is something truly important to the character of Spider-Man, and it's a shame that barely any media outside of comics and a couple TV shows have touched on it. Anyway, Peter suits up and he goes to fight Green Goblin in a pretty half-decent fight scene. I like this Ultimate Comics-inspired design for Goblin, hence Ultimate Spider-Man. I think it looks pretty good, but I've also never been a fan of his traditional design, so I don't really care either way. Anyway, Spider-Man lays out Green Goblin and it's revealed that this whole ordeal was caused by Doctor Strange villain Nightmare, who is voiced by Mark Hamill. Dude, I got so hyped when I heard his voice. That made me so happy. So Spider-Man beats Nightmare, and then he wakes up to his friends coming back for him. They have a Christmas get-together and the episode ends. Overall, it's not too bad. I don't have a lot to say on this show. It's kind of bare bones. There's not too much going on. It's a simple, straight to the point kid show. There's some jokes in it that I actually really enjoyed. I thought the action was fine. The animation is fine. But again, it's just too wacky and weird and childish for me. And that's not me saying that I only like big boy gritty content. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the show isn't made for me. But I'm sure if I showed this to like a 5-year-old, they would be absolutely enthralled with it. That said, I might actually start watching this show. It is on Disney Plus, and I might just have it on in the background while I do things. So I don't know. I'll consider it. It's no Spectacular Spider-Man, but Spider-Man is Spider-Man, and I love Spider-Man. But speaking of Spectacular Spider-Man, aw yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man, Christmas episode, Sinister Six episode, hell yeah. Also, this episode boasts a mostly complete OG Sinister Six lineup. We've got Sandman, Electro, Kraven, Vulture, Mysterio, we're missing Doc Ock in favor of Rhino. This isn't a complaint, it's just a fanboy's hopes and dreams falling apart, no biggie. So the first section of this episode is about the six coming together to fight Spider-Man. Everyone's getting recruited as Peter Parker deals with his high school drama. Something this show does really well is the balance of Peter's stories with his friends and his classmates, and the balance of Spider-Man's stories with his superhero life and villain conflicts. Balance in a story isn't anything profound, but I like acknowledging it when I can. Peter is caught between wanting to date Liz Allen and trying to be a friend to Gwen, but he's also contemplating that he might want to be with Gwen, but he also kinda likes MJ. He's a mess, and yet this displays hormones and emotions better than Big Mouth ever could. Hey, I got him! Fuck you, Big Mouth, you're a bad show. Everybody hates you. So after Peter's done simping for MJ, Electro and Vulture attack. While this excellent fight commences, Tom Keaton gives some rather hilarious lines as Spider-Man.
Now, watch your mouth. They're children present. What? Ugh. I burned my tongue, okay?
I also enjoyed that Tom Keaton is simultaneously the best Spider-Man and the best Electro. Good stuff. After Spidey takes care of Vulture and Electro, we get Rhino and Sandman versus Spider-Man. This is also a good fight. Something I really like about this show is how violent it is while still being kid-friendly. Spider-Man shows before and after this never even considered being this violent with their action sequences, but Spectacular Spider-Man is very violent with its action set pieces, and they also make terrific use of Spider-Man's abilities and usually feature him outsmarting all his enemies opposed to just beating the shit out of them, which is very Spider-Man. Those elements are on heavy display in this episode as Spidey takes a serious beating, but he still beats all his enemies by outsmarting or tricking them. Really good stuff. So after Spider-Man beats Rhino and Sandman, he seeks out Doc Ock and Shocker, only to find Mysterio and Kraven. Okay. So fun fact, my top 3 Spider-Man villains are as follows, 3-1. Scorpion, Kraven, Mysterio. So seeing Spider-Man fight 2 of those at once makes me very happy. Spidey beats Kraven by accidentally luring him into a bomb, and then gets his hands on Mysterio. I think Far From Home took a lot of notes from this show's version of Mysterio. This moment is seemingly one of them. So Peter returns to the girls he's simping for, and he lets them know he got hot chocolate like a good little simp. And the episode ends with Peter giving Aunt May a framed photo of Uncle Ben. A solid ending to a solid episode. Overall, I love this show and every episode of it, and this is no exception. This show did Sinister Six twice, and the first time was Symbiote Spider-Man versus all of them at once. So the writers choosing to do the 6 again with a slightly different lineup and having them fight Spider-Man 2 at a time was a really fun creative decision to avoid repetitive storytelling. I like that a lot. Again, Tom Keaton's Spider-Man is just so good. I love the slight New Yorker accent in there.
See, even though I busted Mysterio, all that tech he stole is still missing.
He lays it on thick with Electro and Spider-Man PS4, but it's still present here and I really enjoy that. I could go on for hours about Spectacular Spider-Man. It's my favorite anything about Spider-Man. Favorite story, favorite version, favorite everything. It's perfect. But thank you for watching this admittedly lackluster conclusion to our 2020 Christmas marathon. I didn't have time to watch a full movie and write a script for it, so I settled for this. But I hope you enjoyed it anyway. I hope you have a fantastic day, and Merry Christmas.
This concludes the video.